in the original language, we'll see quite clearly and extensively described this whole aspect of spiritual practice. Now, one thing that is important to note is that these mantras are presented in Sanskrit language, or at least in a variety of Sanskrit, which is held to be the most perfect example of human language. It is called, in the Buddhist tradition, the divine language, or the language of the gods, and is held to be the most excellent of the different classes of language into which human speech can be divided. Only one page left. With a relief. Why not finish it, huh? Okay. So this was acknowledged by the Tibetan translators who received the teachings from India, because while they made every attempt to translate as accurately as possible, painstakingly all the other aspects of Buddhist teachings, they did not touch the mantras. Only pronounced them in the Tibetan way. They simply transliterated them in Tibetan script, maintaining the structure of the Sanskrit alphabet and the Sanskrit structure of the mantra without any attempt to translate them into Tibetan. They recognized that on some level there was an inherently positive and very crucial nature of the sound in the way in which the mantra was presented in the Sanskrit formula, and that they made no attempt to tamper with this at all, feeling that this would be in fact to debase the device and render it less effective than before. So no attempt was ever made to translate these mantras. The person reciting them always recite them on the basis of the text which held them in the Sanskrit alphabet. This means that simply reciting the mantra has an inherently positive, constructive quality to it. This is particularly useful in case where people feel they have no time or inclination to meditate, or to develop themselves, or to practice intensively. So they can always speak. You see, they can always recite mantras. I feel that it would be a very positive contribution towards their life and spiritual development if they were to use every opportunity to recite a mantra, such as Om Mani Padme Hum. It is a very simple thing to do, but it is very effective and beneficial. Now, this is something which reaches beyond the beneficial for the individual. It is clearly described in the text that if one recites the mantra, anyone who hears the sound of one's recitation receives some benefit. There is some seed planted or potential on some level that will not be wasted, but will contribute to the individual's attainment of complete enlightenment at some point in future lifetimes. It contributes to the spiritual development of the individual. So in one's own simple recitation, one is spreading benefit elsewhere as well. There is even this benefit on the level of being who has died but still has physical remains. If you recite the mantra and blow it on their corpse or bones, there is some kind of transmission of blessing that will not be wasted, but will benefit that mind which had already departed the physical body on a practical level, that will contribute towards their being liberated from lower states of existence and attaining higher ones, and ultimately to the attainment of enlightenment. So this is something which benefits others as well as oneself. In the case of oneself, of course, one is using the time that one would normally be spending doing nothing, or working in some very ordinary, mundane way, adding this element of mantra recitation. One is not complicating things much at all. It is an extremely easy thing to do and is extremely effective. It contributes directly to one's attainment of enlightenment and contributes directly to one's purification of karmic backlog of negativity and obscurations in one's mind. It is even said that if a person is reciting the mantra and a breeze brushes across their body and then touches the body of another being, there is some subtle transmission of the blessing of the mantra on the level, as well as will contribute to that other being's ultimate attainment of enlightenment. None of this has anything to do with the person's meditative realization. It has to do with the inherent power of the sound of the mantra and the form of the mantra, which is the form of liberation itself. a liberating factor in any way in which one comes into contact with it. Through seeing it, through hearing it, through touching it, through thinking of it in any way, some blessing on some level is transmitted, which is not wasted but ultimately becomes effective and useful. It is a shame that I only have a short time to discuss this, because this one aspect of Dharma practice is an extremely vast subject. Those of you who have the opportunity to, in future, to study the teaching of Lord Buddha and Padmasambhava will see that in many sutras and tantras, the single mantra Om Mani Padme Hum amongst many is discussed very extensively as being extremely beneficial spiritual technique on many levels. Those of you who examine these teachings will become more and more convinced that it will demonstrate to you through these teachings that there is in fact this benefit. In sutras and tantra, one of course finds discussions of many mantras, some of them geared towards very specific purposes, and the discussions deal on not only with the specific nature of these mantras but also with the general nature of this kind of practice and the great benefit and blessings that comes about to the individual through their use. Contact with these mantras helps effect the purification of negativities and obscuring elements in one's makeup, develops the positive, supportive element, and contribute directly to the insight and awareness that the individual will attain through the spiritual practices. That's it. Okay? So that's all for Om. Always water. Now we will discuss Om Mani Padme Hum, so we'll do that.
Om Mani Padme Hum Ri, Om Mani Padme Hum Ri, Om Mani Padme Hum Ri,
Om Mani Padme Hum
Ri,
Repeat after me. By the power and the truth of this teaching and little practice, may all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all be free from sorrow and the causes of sorrow. May all never be separated from the sacred happiness which is sorrowless. May all live in equanimity, without too much attachment and too much aversion, and live believing in the equality of all that lives. Everyone develops awareness, and from then one kind of transcends into the realm of Mahayana teachings, of the Bodhisattva vehicle, where upon realizing that that all the nature phenomena is empty, and even the mind itself is empty, and when one realizes the nature of shunyata, that kind of gives rise to the absolute bodhicitta, or the compassion, and one is inspired to work towards the benefit of all sentient beings and not be limited to one's own individual liberation. And so these 2 points of, for example, realization of egolessness and the realization of shunyata and the birth of compassion are integral part for the actually tantric practice. This I actually established very thoroughly. I don't know how many people are here just today. How many are here just today? You've been before, you've been before. And who are just completely new, who are just here today? Okay. Well, I think perhaps what you have to do is to listen to the earlier tapes of yesterday and the day before, because in some ways it's intended as a complete course, or a complete 3 talks are part of a complete vision. And since we cannot every day backtrack and get through the introduction, so that, and then I began talking about the Vajra nature, began talking about the need for preliminary purification, preliminary practice to Mundro, then the entering to the realm of the tantric mandala, and the connection with one's teacher. Teacher is like the transmitter, the communicator of the energy of Tantra. And then the main practice. Henry, you want to come in the front? There's a seat here. Then the 2 principal practices of Tantra are the working with what is called generation phase, which is called Kerim. And then, for example, yesterday we dealt a great deal on Kerim, and also a lot of time on mantra, on the practice of mantra. These are the 2 main practices. And now we are left today with talking about Dzogchen, the completion phase. But before we come to that, I just wondered whether you have any questions, because these 2 days have been mainly teaching. Have you any questions, or have you understood what I've said, or any confusion that has risen from that? Or you don't care? Any questions you have? Good questions. I mean, especially the first questions should be really inspiring. You know what I mean? Kind of like when you pour out champagne, the first must be bubbly, isn't it? So first question must be extremely good, extremely profound. Extremely profound, and you know. Because more or less I've said the basic principles anyway, talked already. So I just thought if there's any particular thing that you would like me to talk on. Any questions? Perhaps this is what you didn't expect, to start the talk this way. I think new people realize that we've been